Cutback for Vasilev and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing! Off and running in his first appearance for the club!
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and this is a first for Jose and I think. Both of us away, not in our normal recording studios, me down in Florida at Walt Disney World, and Jose still on the West Coast, but this time in Seattle. So, a first on the Free Kick Podcast, but we figured, why not come on here and give you guys a 35, 40-minute episode. Nothing too long, but before we get into that, Jose, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Just luck would have it that I am in Seattle when the Seattle Seahawks are having a game against the 49ers in the playoffs. So, as you can probably imagine, the city's kind of nutty right now with a lot of people walking around, a lot of people taking up the restaurants, which is totally fine. I'm sure here come closer to 5 p.m., it's all going to die down pretty quickly. So, it's fun, and it's also nice to be towards the tail end of my trip. Genuinely here, just cleaning up a few things, and then I leave tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to head back to the West Coast with a quick stop in Chicago before heading to Philadelphia. So eager to see my kids, eager to see my family as a whole, my golden retriever, etc. My wife, not in that order, but just about ready, man. And I think we have some stuff to talk about, but nothing crazy that I think 35 minutes probably yields us the best conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's what we've done throughout the whole season, or I should say off season, is try to get you guys a podcast at least once a week. So continuing with that trend. But before we get into, I think, two of the topics that we want to discuss, thank you to everybody that listened to the Kai Wagner interview with Jose and I. Obviously, and I don't know, maybe this wasn't obvious to some people, but that was pre-recorded. And so Jose and Kai both left after the interview, had things to do. And so then I recorded the preview to the interview and then the outro to the interview. And so we saw all the comments. We appreciate all the comments. That's why we didn't pull up any comments. We appreciate all the support that we got on that video. By far the most listened to podcast that we've done. So again, we appreciate you guys so much for that. But I do want to turn it over to you, Jose, because I share my thoughts a little bit after the podcast, just what I thought on that interview. When you listen back to it, when you were in the moment interviewing Kai, just what were your thoughts with everything that Kai kind of shared with us?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the platform to kind of, share what I thought about it. I must admit, I think just because of being so busy, I think I got through 3/4 of it. And the last, maybe like the second quarter of it, I was in the middle of the shower just blasting it on my tablet when we put it live as I was getting ready for a work dinner. So all that to say that I haven't fully watched it back, but in my mind's eye and what I remember from it, eternally grateful to the guy. I mean, he had no business really, reaching out to me to want to talk, which is actually like an unbelievable thing. It still sort of, shocks me that he reached out to me and that he shared nearly 54 minutes out of his life to talk and ultimately even told us, I don't know if it was during the conversation or after the conversation or before it, but he was ready to talk for another hour, he said. So we could have pulled and picked apart a little further. But my immediate thoughts are that whether the guy realizes it or not, whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. But my goodness, is he honest with what he says, right? I don't think that there's much mincing of words or holding back on anything when it comes to Kai Wagner, which I think it's an attribute rather than a detrimental type of thing. It can be detrimental to different places that he may represent, as maybe we saw when he gave me the quote a few years back now where, you know, it was the spending needs spending and spending in his contract, etc. But ultimately, he's a very honest guy. I also think that there were many nuggets there that even, you know, Todd, you, myself, our folks, my colleagues at AAT Sports as well, you know, we're pretty tuned in. But even during that conversation, I left away, and somebody on Reddit was funny enough to sort of pinpoint some of the moments or one specific moment where, you know, I was pretty attentive, watching and listening. And when he said a couple of things, you know, like there's no hiding my face in terms of my reactions, and like the ridges on my forehead when he said something, just sort of like lifting up my eyebrow, like, huh, I didn't know that you had a physical sit up for that place specifically, but I knew of other places. So plenty of nice little nuggets to be had there. But I think overall, and maybe you have specific topics from it that you want to talk about, and eager to hear from you on that. But overall, I think I'm just still sort of blushing in terms of the response from people listening. It was so incredibly kind in terms of, you know, the way that we turned it out. I apologize for not having a better microphone, but you know, that's kind of what happens when I'm on the road. And B, doing it from a hot spot in the middle of a Starbucks in Marin County, which is right past the Golden Gate Bridge, which is notorious for not having great cell service because it's kind of no man's land. So I'm just incredibly proud that we got that out, and we got it out as well as we did. So kudos to you on the editing job. And again, eternally thankful for Kai. I don't think he's going to be a stranger in the future. I think he might be a repeat guest in the future, because I can think of 30 other things that we could probably ask him about during his tenure at the club. So, yeah, what do we want to dissect out of this conversation with Kai that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on pretty much everything I wanted to say. Is that he's an open guy, and that's something that we came to expect from Kai during his 7 seasons in Philadelphia. He's a guy who never minced his words. Certainly didn't do that in the interview with us. And I don't know. I had sent him a message afterwards, and just again, I probably told him it 20,000 times during his time with us, before the show, after the show, with him just sitting and talking to us. I mean, let's face it, he had no reason to sit down and want to have a conversation with us. That chapter in Philadelphia felt like it was closed. He had the perfect message to the fans, and now I'll focus on to Birmingham City. But like you had said, he, I guess, felt like he had more he wanted to say, or wanted to speak it and not write it, and hit you up and said, hey, I'll do a podcast. Can I come on? And yeah, just really, really grateful for that. And I don't take opportunities like that for granted. And yeah, I know there was people in the comment section saying, you know, yeah, Kai for them is for sure on the Mount Rushmore of greatest Union players. And I know people have different criterias and everything. And Valerie actually had hit me up and said she would love for us to go over our 4 Union Mount Rushmore players. And I said, yeah, that's something that we could do later on. And she said, you know, what qualifies somebody for the 4 players on the Union's Mount Rushmore? And again, we can go over that exercise another time. Again, we want to spend no more than 40 minutes on this podcast, but yeah, just really grateful. And for me, it was so funny hearing him talk about Bedoya, how he was like a kid just playing video games because he's not allowed to do it back at home. And so, yeah, I mean, we've known, Jose, how tight the team was the core group of players, and we've heard it from other players. And to hear Kai just come out here and say it on a platform like this, just saying, yeah, when we were in the bubble, we were just playing so much Call of Duty Warzone. And you see the players post on social media when they're out and about in the city of Philadelphia at each other's houses for team meals and everything. And yeah, just really grateful for Kai's time, and really grateful, honestly, Jose, to be able to cover this team in the greatest time in Philadelphia Union history, and learn about these guys personally and of course professionally. So not much else that I really want to talk about, share from that interview. Again, I think that interview speaks for itself, but just very, very grateful for Kai's time. And real quickly, we can touch on it. I did not watch the game. Swansea City versus Birmingham City. That game ended at 1-1. Kai, and you had put in a chat, did we jinx him? Yeah, gets caught flat-footed. Big mistake on the left-hand side by Kai that led to the goal for Swansea City, but credit to them, right? Kai got the hockey assist that led to the goal for Patrick Roberts, the former Fulham and Manchester City player, which we don't have to talk about what happened to City this morning, Jose. But yeah, happy to see Kai not let that moment down, because I think a lot of players, especially at the big stage at Kai's at, right? You go out and you make a mistake like that early on in the game, and that could just throw you off the rest of the game. But we know Kai's a player that it's not going to let one play just define the rest of the game for him. So happy to see Hay and his teammates bounce back against Swansea City on the road, because let's face it, the Birmingham City fans seem to be a fan of this podcast now. They know it better than anybody. They've struggled all season long under Chris Davies on the road this season. And yeah, to go down 1-0 and then to crawl back in and get a point, I think they'd be happy with that. But yeah, overall, happy to see Kai not sink in that moment, which was a huge blunder, but credit to him for continuing on with his game.
Yeah, and that mistake, man, what I think actually when I watched that mistake that he made, and I'm sure he'll move on from it. Well, whatever, the Philadelphia race now of flushing mistakes down the toilet, I guess, basically. It looked like it was an opportunity where, the ball was being distributed to the wing or to the side of Kai defensively, the wing for Swansea. And I think he thought that he was going to be able to shield the ball for it to go out of bounds for a throw-in. Completely misjudged it, which was sort of a shock. I'm also really shocked that they don't have him taking corner kicks. Obviously, you kind of earn that respect or that opportunity, but they also put him as the last man back in some of these set pieces. He is not the speediest of defenders. He's also not the slowest. I get that, but some of the players in the championship, the pace that they have, I think Kai is bound to get burned once or twice here with an out route type of pass, or honestly, just I don't know. It's gonna be. It could be pretty ugly for him. But to the interview, I think the last thing I will say before we move on, Todd, is I really appreciated the sense of humor that he had, obviously with the hibachi party, which obviously once you listen to the conversation, your opinion maybe changes a little bit about it. Like, sure, it was a little funny and kind of goofy, but it was actually pretty emotional for him and his family to have this hibachi party, and obviously it was basically a fake out because he changed his mind. So I appreciated that sense of humor, but I also appreciated him saying, it was frustrating for me that, people thought that I was often asking to leave, when the reality was that teams were knocking and I had the opportunity to go, and I was very close multiple times and chose not to because Philadelphia is my home. So I think maybe he got that off his chest more than anything. It felt like every other season, jokingly, we would say, it's Kai Wagner season. Where is he going to go? Las Palmas and Italy, here, England, etc. It's now put all to bed, and because he basically told us, no, there was a lot of truth to some of those rumors, but he ultimately chose to be in Philadelphia. So glad we did it. I'm glad it's behind us, and hopefully we have someone else coming in the near future. Feelers are out, but a lot is up in the air when it comes to USL. One specific person that I think we want to talk to. So we'll see. More to come. And that's not the only person we've reached out to or consider reaching out to. So maybe in the comments, maybe this is a little bit of an engagement exercise. Tell us who you think we should talk to. That's, I hate to say realistic, but I'm not going to talk to Jay Sugarman. I have a lot of interest, but not for this. I have a bajillion other questions. But B, not sure that I am not the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm not the Inky. They're not going to give me Jay Sugarman. So put it in the comments. Let us know who you think we should talk to next.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead, Jose, and change topics to what the Philadelphia Union confirmed, and that is their preseason games. And I guess right off the bat, surprise, the Union's show through us was no FC Cincinnati after Bradley Cornell had confirmed that when they go down to Clearwater that they would be facing FC Cincinnati and CF Montreal. They will be playing Montreal still, but no FC Cincinnati. They'll play Tampa Bay Rowdy. This is I'm probably going to butcher some of these names, if not most of them, but I'll go ahead and give it a go. So the Union on January 20th, they will play a Czech side, Sigma Olomouc, on the 20th of January. And then a couple days afterwards, on the 23rd, the Union will play FC Nordsjælland, the former club of Milan Ilowski. And then on the 29th, this is one I think I'll probably struggle with, Jose, but I'll give it a go. They will play Montenegrin side, Budućnost.
I think so.
Podgorista, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. Again, I was definitely going to struggle on that one. That was one that neither one of us thought that the Union were going to play. They just added that team. So all in all, 5 preseason games for the Union, 3 in Spain, 2 in Clearwater, Florida. And I'll be honest, I mean, I don't know a ton about any of these clubs, and I think what I'll add is about these competitions. You're going to be playing against the European teams, which is, of course, good to go against those competitions. Kai talked about how that was good for the team, how that was a first for the team going against teams like that in Spain. And you look at Slavia Prague. They were the week later playing in the Europa League. And so Bradley Cornell talked about in the press conference the other day how it seemed to work out going to Marbella. It's going to continue to be the case this season. And this time they had a full week of training and practice, and now they play 3 teams in Spain, and hopefully players just continue to take those opportunities like we saw last year. But yeah, I think it's always a good thing to play against European competition. I think it's good to go against teams that have played in UEFA qualifying games. The one thing I'll add about Nordsjælland is that, yeah, Milan Ilowski came there, and they're a club in Denmark that is known for player development and then transferring players to higher levels. And a player that stands out to me is Mikael Damsgaard, a player that was transferred to Sampdoria in the Italian league in Serie A. Was a huge star for Denmark in Euro 2020. I think fans will remember. And then transferred to Brentford, now in the Premier League. Tottenham Hotspur were linked with him, I believe, at one point or another. But yeah, I mean, you look at a player like him, or a player like Mohamed Darami, who moved from Nordsjælland's academy and then moved to Ajax. And so they have a couple players, like I said, Milan Ilowski, who moved from Nordsjælland to San Diego. And you and I were talking about this actually a couple of weeks ago, Jose. It is interesting that, and I don't know how many people know this, but San Diego and Nordsjælland, they have the same ownership group. And so I do wonder, okay, was that always the plan, to move an American to San Diego, a San Diego native, once San Diego got a franchise? And we know what happened. They couldn't agree to a permanent deal, wages or whatever the case may be. And Philadelphia Unions just came and scooped up Milan Ilowski and was a huge player for the Union in the second half of last season. Expected to be another big key contributor for the 2026 season. But Jose, just anything you want to add, talk about with these preseason games for the Union?
Certainly don't know much about these European teams. know plenty about the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Leo Fernandez, who obviously I believe is now retired or still there. I can't recall if he's there anymore. A former Union player. Montreal with Brendan Craig and honestly probably pretty revamped, I would think. I haven't been following what they've done. I hate to say it, not too concerned about what they've done in terms of becoming more competitive compared to last year, which isn't hard. But I must admit, I'm really disappointed that there's no Cincinnati, because I would think if Cincinnati was to swap out with Tampa Bay, maybe immediately you could say that that's either the best opponent, if not second best opponent that the team's playing in this entire road trip to Spain. And it's become sort of a tradition to play against Cincinnati. Obviously, Kai shared his opinions about playing the Montreals and the Cincinnatis of the world and how boring it gets of, playing them in preseason and then you're playing them 2 more times anyways in the regular season. Never mind potentially running into them in Leagues Cup and maybe even CONCACAF Champions Cup, at least with Cincinnati. But all in all, I'm just glad that that this is all rolling, right? That the team's going to Spain, that they're going to continue. It seems like that they're going to continue that tradition out in Marbella, Spain. For how long, who knows? At least they're in Bradley's tenure. It seems like it's something that maybe he's requesting and wants to do. But I also hope, and I think they would be very savvy to do this. I don't know what it takes, but just live stream something from Spain, a couple of games, a game. You have 3 opportunities. Doesn't have to be pretty. We, in the press and certainly the fandom, once we found out that, there's a stream, we were giving money to European teams when the reality was, maybe I'm not necessarily giving the union the idea or the go ahead to do so, but I was okay with giving a foreign team $6 to be able to watch 45, 50, I guess 100. I think, was it an extended game or was it just 90? I can't remember. A 90-minute game in Spain. So I hope that they find a way to do it. It is nice that the Montreal game, I believe, is the one that's, or Tampa Bay, I forget which one, is being open to the public, but I definitely don't think I'll be going to Florida anytime soon. I have no desire, with all due respect to the state of Florida. But some of these Spain games, man, it just stream one of them. I mean, I've been watching a couple of games here and there. Mikel Ua's new club streamed their game. And it wasn't crazy production. It was genuinely, I think, just a camcorder with a connection to the internet and just live streaming to YouTube. So I know it's far more complicated than just doing that, I'm sure, when it comes to sponsors and what they wear on their shirts and etc. But just figure it out. There has to be a way to do it, even if it's a little crude.
Yeah, and why fans, I would say, want to watch these games, and I would say even media too, because we saw it last year with Frankie Westfield. We saw it with Alwethu Makanya. Young players get given chances. And
Glavinovic?
Yeah, absolutely. New signings too. Fans want to get a first look at Ezekiel Alado, Finn Sundstrom. And so I think that, I don't want to speak for the guy, but Bradley Cornell seems to be more protective than Jim Curtin was, in my opinion, in terms of tactics and what he shares, what he doesn't share with the media, and what goes on with training sessions. Because look, there was plenty of times when I was down in Subaru Park under Jim Curtin's there, and I'm staying for whole practices, watching what's going on in practices, or majority of the practices, where you get 15 minutes with Bradley Cornell. And I get it. Each coaches are going to have their wants, their needs, what they will allow, what they won't allow. They have what works with them, what doesn't work with them. Jim Curtin, a couple years ago at the United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia, was just sharing his tactics and said, who am I to gatekeep my tactics? He said, if it helps grow the sport in America, then I'm all about that. And is Bradley Cornell somebody that's going to go out there and share all his tactics? I'm not too sure. And again, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Managers are going to have their preferred methods of how they want to go and share that information. But at the same time, let's be honest, Jose. People are watching these games on Apple, and it's like, what do you have to share? People see how you play, and so there's enough data out there, and we know how data-driven some of these teams are. So it's like, how secretive do you need to be when there's just so much film, so much data on these teams? But again, each coach, each manager is going to have their way of doing things, and who am I to argue how they do it? So yeah, we'd love to see preseason games streamed, at least one in Spain, to get a look at some of these new guys, and looking forward to some of these camp battles, and seeing the young guys given an opportunity, which I think this is a good transition to the last topic, Jose. The Union's first preseason conference of 2026 with Bradley Cornell and once again John Shear. And I saw some comments on social media, and I would agree with those comments where it does seem like John Shear is the key decision maker. I know there's this collective that Bradley and John have come out and said that there is for the Union, but the way you hear John speak to the media, how the Union keep throttling John out there and not a Matt Radicic, leads me to believe that maybe John Shear is the highest man on the totem pole. But regardless, yeah, Bradley and John shared, I don't think anything earth-shattering that you and I hadn't heard from sources, Jose, about, yeah, this club's going to continue to be active. I guess it was good to hear Quinn Sullivan's progressing well, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule, but there is no way a time can be set how long that recovery is going to take. A lot of praise for Alejandro Bedoya. And one thing I will add on that, and we joked about this a couple podcasts ago, or at least I did, Jose, where I said, because Bedoya has been here for so long, do you just feel like you leave it up to him? And if he says he wants to come back, you bring him back? And Bradley Cornell said just that, said, it's up to Bedoya. If he wants to come back, we'll continue to bring him back. And I was kind of joking with that, Jose. And when you're a player like Bedoya entering year 11, where you've transcended this club, helped this club transcend into a new stratosphere, he does sort of earn that right. But at the same time, too, right? I get it. Why some fans are like, why are you bringing back Bedoya? What can he contribute? Well, when it's a young team like this and you have this much turnover, he does contribute a lot. I don't think he'll play a ton of minutes. There are a lot of competitions, don't get me wrong, this season. Maybe he plays more minutes than he did last year. We shall see. But yeah, I think just his business knowledge, and we don't have to hit on the Bedoya thing. We talked about it once they announced that they were bringing him back. But yeah, overall, just nothing earth-shattering, I thought, from this press conference, Jose.
No, nothing at all. If anything, I listened to it while driving down to Olympia, Washington for work while here in Washington State. And once I finally got settled and where I needed to be, I called you and I said, and I texted somebody else and I said, I feel like if people listen or read our work, it's everything that they said, right? In terms of what we already knew, there was nothing earth-shattering. To your Bedoya comment, in terms of the 180, it feels like, at least to me, between the report at the time, that was the big hubbub of Pablo Maurer, who, lo and behold, is also behind the report for Ernst Tanner. But the previous reporting of, Bedoya getting a 30-second conversation with Ernst Tanner to decide what his future was and how, I don't know if inappropriate's the term, how rude that was for a club legend, however you feel about it. And now suddenly, Bedoya is being asked, do you want to come back? Like, you have an employee parking lot. Basically is what it feels like, right? Like this, your name's printed on the concrete. You just let us know if we have to write over it or if we should keep it that way and outline one more time. So that felt like a stark difference. But the rest of the press conference, yeah, of course, Quinn Sullivan, if you sort of, hear from us or see on social media, the dude's going into that gym every day, working out and whatnot. Of course, Kevin Sullivan wants to get more minutes. Manchester City would certainly like for him to get more minutes, I'm sure. And ultimately, it's stuff that, if you follow us, again, like, of course they're not done in the market. They just sold off their biggest attacking piece in terms of creation with Kai Wagner. Like, yeah, of course they're looking for some sort of replacement. They're not just gonna rest. They're never resting. I think people think that there's this rest period where, there's no more scouting, there's no more buying of players, there's no researching of players. It happens at all times of the day, I'm sure. So nothing earth-shattering, but I think you're absolutely right. It really does feel like John Shear is sort of at the helm here. I'm not announcing anything. I'm not sharing anything that I know from behind the scenes at all. That's not my intention or what I'm trying to do. But just genuinely as a passive listener of it all, and maybe not so passive since, we do a really good job of dissecting what they say and how to say things because words matter. At least, UNPR have told me as much in the past. John is really speaking the language of someone who is sort of leading the ship here. And the fact that he continues to be the face of these leads me to believe that maybe he is the guy. So more to come. I hope that there's a clearer structure for us to follow and better understand. And I'm sure that people, and I think us included, would just want an answer of what's happening with Ernst Tanner, right? It's been 30 plus days since the report and the administrative leave that whether it's positive or negative or whatever, I'm indifferent about the result of it all. I hope it's done right, and I hope it's announced soon. So again, the club can just move on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, one thing I'll play real quick is for people who didn't listen to the press conference, in my opinion, you didn't miss a ton, at least again to Jose and I mean, nothing earth shattering, but this was John Shear in his opening statement to the media, talking about how, sold a lot of key players, but that was all according to plans. It was all intentional, and that the club is still going to be active throughout the transfer window.
Just want to address some, a busy but very intentional offseason thus far. An offseason that's, seen some significant departures, players that we thank for their contributions to this club, not only just last year, but for some, the past few years. And, impacts made, standards driven on and off the field. But we feel the moves we've made have set us up and our club for a lot of optionality and flexibility as we go about approaching the 2026 MLS season. It's been an off-season that's seen some new additions and new signings, including Ezekiel Alado, where the club broke our club transfer fee record. We also have kept some important pieces, including Ale Bedoya, who will be entering his 11th season and has a massive impact on and off the field as well. And just want to make it very, very clear, while we've made a few signings, we aren't done. We're very active in the transfer market. We look forward to continuing to attack so that our club is in the best possible position come 2026.
Yeah, and so if the Union wanted to end the press conference right there, like that's literally all they needed to do. Have John Shear say then say, all right, press conference is over, but they go on for 32 minutes, and that's fine. I get it. Get guys to get on record with their answers and whatnot, but yeah, I think that was the overall theme from the press conference is the Union are active. They're going to continue to be active. There will be more signings. Yes, Martinez will be one of them. A left back, which hopefully that gets finalized sometime soon so that player can join preseason, because whatever moves they get done, Jose, that's what I want to see. Not like the Bruno Damiani where the player misses all preseason. At least get them in for a preseason game or two. If you can get them in for more, great. But yeah, at least try to get these players a preseason. Ideally, you would want them to have a full preseason. That's obviously not going to happen with any signings that they have going forward because the team was back in market last week, trading fully. Now they're off to Spain. But the Union will be signing more players. Be patient. It's a crazy transfer window. We say it all the time, Jose, and this is why MLS wants to change the calendar so they can be more in line with the rest of the world, where majority of clubs don't want to sell this time of year. because they're trying not to get relegated. They're trying to get promoted. They're in different European competitions. And so, if anything, they're buying players. There's not a ton of activity that goes on, but for MLS, this is the window. This is where they're most active. And so, looking forward to seeing what signings the Union do get done. And like I said, hopefully those signings, once they are announced, once they are finalized and all that, hopefully they can play a couple preseason games so they can get used to the style that Bradley Cornell wants to play and used to their teammates.
Nothing to add. Bang on right. Hopefully they bring players in sooner rather than later, and they can get to know one another and grow and develop. The one question I did appreciate, I don't know if it was our friend Matt Ralph or who it was, but somebody asked about clarification on Ala Bedoya's professional role, and I think
Matt
the answer.
McLean.
Oh, Matt McLean, thank you. Matt asked the question, and it sounds like it's still a fluid thing that they're trying to figure out. I think fluid was the word that was used for that answer. And I know I had asked you, I think I had asked Mike Barrero at one point, like, did we ever hear what this role actually does? And I know, at least in this press conference, John here mentioned player development, but again, I don't know what is the deliverable on that. I'm just genuinely intrigued. I'm not calling out the guy or the role or anything. I just want to see what the work is because I'm just a sucker for learning more about it. So beyond that run-of-the-mill press conference, that could have been a press release, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe during the season we'll get an opportunity to ask Bedoya what that role looks like. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Definitely getting nasally. Still not 100% better. Was happy that I was able to do the Kai Wagner interview when we did it and have voice and not sound nasally. But yeah, nothing like being sick while on vacation. But if you guys aren't following him on Twitter, you can follow at Jose R. Nunez 91. Check out his Substack. I believe it's, what is it? I don't know. Jose R. Nunez?
I think it's Nunez J, whatever. It's on the bio of my Twitter account. I'm really eager to see
the show notes. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm really eager to see Todd if we're able to find and get access or a hold of some of these people that we've sort of bounced about. Kai was very much a surprise. I kid you not. To the listener, I kid you not. So we'll see if some of our actual targets. And it'll be nice to also bring in. We had to do the Kai one just on the fly, just so quick that we didn't want to drop it, but we'd love to get input from some of our friends on questions too, to kind of have an even maybe better product. I think it was pretty good, but really intrigued to see how much more we can ask of some of these people that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And yeah, just you guys know, follow Jose on Twitter where he's most active. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, where we get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel live every single podcast, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod. And if you want to find my writing, goals breakdown video, or podcast all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. And we're finally going to do it. It was like getting a podcast under 40 minutes. So let's not go ahead and delay this any further. As always, if there's anything breaking that is worth talking about, Jose and I will try to find time to discuss. But with Jose flying back, wanting to get back to see his family after a long road trip on the West Coast, now with me on vacation, definitely want to enjoy that. So we'll see you guys when we see you. But until then, my name is Todd, and this